everybody, and welcome to this short video on narrative tenses. We will be going through the simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. So let's remember what each past tense is about. Our simple past expresses an action completed in a specific time, a definite time. The past continuous expresses that an event was incomplete or in progress at a point of reference in the past. The past perfect tense is the past before the past. And the past perfect continuous is a continuous action that was completed at some point in the past. Before we go in depth with each of the tenses, let's review our verbs. Remember, we have three forms of verbs. Notice that the first verbs are irregular verbs. Put is an example of a verb that does not change. Think, thought. A verb that only changes once. Run, ran, run. A verb that changes in the simple past, but again is the same in the past participle form. Just as the verbs come, came, come, or the verb become, became, become. Then we have a type of verb that changes in the three forms: eat, ate, eaten, just like the verb write, wrote, written, or the verb go, went, gone. At last, we have a regular verb. What happens to regular verbs is that you just add ed at the end, such as work, worked, worked. Be careful with the pronunciation. I recommend you watch the video on past tense pronunciation so that you can pronounce accurately the ending. You can also visit a website to practice your verbs just by clicking on the computer and follow the link. The simple past tense structure. Let's take a look. In the affirmative form, you will always need a simple past verb. I took the bus to work yesterday. I never take the bus. I always ride with my friend, but this time I took the bus. In a negative form, you can see how the verb is now a simple form verb. Why? Because we have our auxiliary, our negative auxiliary here. Now, this is why I took the bus to work yesterday. Fernando didn't give me a ride. That was so rude. In an interrogative form, we have our auxiliary again here. Did the bus arrive on time? Notice how our verb is in a simple form again. Same thing when we use a question word. How long did you wait for the bus? To practice the simple past tense, you can visit the website by clicking on the computer. Before we move on to the next tense, remember that there are time markers for each tense since it happens in a specific time, in a definite time. Those time markers can be yesterday, last night, last week, last month, last year, last summer, the day before, 3 months ago. Now the past continuous. In the past continuous, we will use two elements in all of its forms. The verb be, which can be singular or plural, was and were, and the ing verb, which can also be called a gerund. My colleagues were watching a video when I arrived. Now, when I arrived is the simple past and is the time reference for what my friends were doing at that point. My boss wasn't smiling when I told him what happened. In the negative form, we have my boss wasn't smiling when I told him what happened. He was pretty mad, certainly. In the interrogative form, Now let's look at the interrogative form. Were my colleagues listening when I complained? Notice that what happens is that our verb be goes at the beginning of our sentence, followed by the subject, and then the ing verb. In an interrogative form with the question word, we just add the question word. Look at the example. Why were my colleagues watching a video? They were enjoying the free time. Some time markers that we can use in these tense are yesterday, last night, a while ago, some time ago. You can practice a little bit more by clicking on a computer at the bottom of the screen. The past perfect. The past before the past. I really like these tense. We will need the auxiliary had for all subjects and our past participle verb. We will call them PP verbs. Look at an example. Evelyn had invited me to the movies so many times. This was not the first time. She had done it many times before. And you know what? I hadn't seen that movie before, so I finally accepted. The thing is that Evelyn invited me to a theater I thought had closed 3 years ago. So I asked her, hadn't that theater closed 3 years ago? Notice how in this case I am using a negative auxiliary, which is okay, for it is a negative question. When had this theater reopened? I wondered, since I hadn't heard of it in a long time. Some time markers for these tense are by the time, before, after, when, until. Let's see a couple more examples. By the time Erver arrived to the wedding, the groom had given the speech. That means that the speech was over, so Erver wasn't able to listen to it. You gotta be on time for weddings, Erver. The tickets had gone before the concert was announced. Especially if it was a famous band, I imagine how quick the tickets had been sold. When the detectives arrived, the criminal had already escaped. So, it was too late for the detectives. All they had left were the clues. If you want to continue practicing the past perfect, you can click on a computer and do an online exercise. The past perfect continues. Now we're going to put a couple of elements together. Look at our structure. We have the subject, auxiliary had, our PP form of be. Remember that in the continuous tenses we need the verb be. In this structure we're going to use the verb be in the past participle form plus an ing verb or a gerund. Betsy had been planning a family trip for so long. But you know what? Unfortunately, her mother hadn't been feeling well before the trip. Oh, that seems like the trip's gonna be canceled. Had it been raining all week? What kind of weather had they been expecting? Please practice some more the past perfect continuous by clicking on the computer at the bottom of the screen. Some time markers you can use in these tense are for, since, the whole day, all day. So it's time to put everything together. Listen to the story. Read along. Try to identify the different narrative tenses used in the story. A lucky escape. It was a Sunday morning and we got up early. We had arranged to take the children to London to visit my parents. We showered, had breakfast, and while I made some sandwiches to take with us, Sally got the children ready. The train left at 8:20, so at 8 o'clock we left the house to walk to the village station. Just as we were going out at the door, the phone rang, It was my mother calling to say that my father had caught a cold and to ask if we could postpone our trip. Of course I agreed, but the children were very disappointed. In the end, Sally suggested taking a train to another town about 100 kilometers away where we could go to the fun fair. We set off for the station rather late, but unfortunately, when we finally got to the station, the train had already left. There was nothing we could do, as the next train didn't leave until midday, so we went home. We had to buy ice cream to keep the children quiet. That evening, we heard on the news that there had been an accident at the fun fair, and 25 people had been killed. It was the luckiest escape we have ever had. Were you able to identify all the 4 narrative tenses we just practiced? If you'd like to download this worksheet, you can visit the link by clicking on the pencil. And if you want to practice online, you can click on a computer. Can you pimp up your stories? Of course. Add some transitions in your narrative. You can use words such as later, next, eventually, finally, first, last, soon, meanwhile, at first, as a result, as time passed, nowadays, at the beginning, in the end. Thanks for watching. Remember to practice in your book as well. See you in class.